Bite-Sized and Bossy, rising up the ranks, handing out encouragement, deposits in their banks. Inspiration coming at you like a river flowing. Women paving paths, look at them going. Bite-Sized and Bossy, rising up the ranks, handing out encouragement, deposits in their banks.
Welcome, I'm Erin.
I'm Tammy.
And this is
Bite-Sized and Bossy.
That
Which
was
one
great.
of us
We
is
did it.
bite-sized and which one of us is bossy?
I'm probably bossy. Well, no, you're bossy too. Maybe both. I don't know. But
I'm bite-sized now.
Yeah, you are bite-sized. I'm not. So I'm just going to have to stick with bossy. Well, we have a great show for Bite-Sized and Bossy today. An amazing woman who I've had the pleasure to talk to and prep with, and she is unbelievable. So I'm excited to hear her story. And I mean, I don't know how we're going to compact it into the minutes we have, but Julia Wrin Piper is with us. She's the CEO of Clover out of Boston. And Julia, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Well, so for those of the folks listening that don't know you or know who you are, if you could just give a brief intro of who you are, what you do, and how you got there.
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm the CEO of Clover. Clover is a sustainable food company that's based in Boston, Massachusetts. We make amazingly delicious seasonal food that's actually 100% locally sourced and veggie forward. We're a 100% vegetarian food company, all with the mission of lowering the carbon footprint in the first New England food system and eventually, hopefully, the American food system.
Those are some lofty goals. How did you get into this space? Were you a restaurant operator? Were you a food production? Like, how'd you sort of make this your passion?
I ate at a lot of restaurants, so I had a lot of personal.
Erin, we can start a company too.
Yeah. I don't know why I haven't done that.
That's all it took.
I actually started as a scientist first. I was a neuroscientist, and then I ended up studying evolutionary biology. And in that kind of long, tortuous process, I accidentally became a yeast biologist. And one of the cool things about yeast is that yeast is very important for lots of really delicious things in food and beverage, including beer. So I actually helped some folks in the area start up a really innovative, cool brewery, and I ran that lab and brewery for a while. Fell in love with working on products that are interesting and kind of recreate experiences that people think that they've had before, and then you get to like surprise them with something new and delicious. So I fell in love with that. Fell in love with running a company filled with creative, passionate people, and then I wanted to pivot into food because there's a lot of really big unsolved important problems in food, especially around the environment and public health and access. And I really like being able to meld this kind of ground up problem solving that you learn how to do in science with something that actually has a direct day-to-day impact on people's lives, like consumer good, like food. So I ended up shifting into food, and Clover was a company I knew well, had been around for about 13 years when I joined it, originally as COO, and it was a really, really easy choice to start at Clover. It's really cool to be working at a company that has both a great mission and a really good product. It makes it much, much easier.
Well, for sure. Well, are you guys food production, or are you an actual restaurant? And if you're production, who are you selling your products to? Like, where would you get them if you were listening?
We're primarily a restaurant, so we have about a dozen locations in the Boston area, a few downtown, at a couple of universities, which is really cool, and then a few in the suburban areas, and a couple actually kiosks in Whole Foods, which is a great partnership.
What's your favorite item on the menu?
Ooh. Well, it's a seasonal menu, so my favorite item usually changes every other week because we're selling something new every other week. But actually, this is kind of embarrassing to admit, I actually just had our flagship product called the chickpea fritter for the first time in maybe like 6 months earlier this week, and that is a really, really good sandwich. I always forget how good it is.
And you guys are vegetarian, not vegan, because there's a distinction there.
There's a big distinction.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of vegan options. So we have restaurants, and then we also have a 7-day-a-week meal box service we deliver to people's homes, which is a completely separate menu. And then we also do B2B catering, and we actually do wholesale for our pita, or like fresh baked pita bread every day. So we have a lot of stuff. There's a lot of vegan options and all of that, but the primary differentiator of our product is that everything is 100% vegetarian.
That's unbelievable. So you said you were COO and you moved to CEO. And like, how was that transition for you? Were you just like, oh, I'm moving into the CEO role. This is great.
It's a wild ride. I think that probably most journeys into the CEO seat, whether you're founding your own company, as a person with a super tiny team, or you're stepping into a really established company with a big team and a culture and a lot of details that are new to you, it's probably emotional for everyone. It was a very emotional journey for me. I loved Clover as a brand. As COO, I got to understand the business really well. But like many companies, especially in the restaurant and F&B space, it really struggled after the pandemic, and it struggled with a lot of rising costs, especially around real estate. And frankly, as a brand, it kind of was struggling to find its space in a really quickly changing food landscape. So I was super happy to be COO, but the business kind of wasn't in a great financial position. So, the board was looking for a change of management. I stepped into the CEO role, therefore at a very difficult time in the company's history, which was, both, like I said, very emotional, but also really exciting. It's really cool to be in a position where, there's a bunch of problems you have to solve, and you really don't have time to stop and think about, to hem and haw about, how exactly to solve a problem. You just have to have a great team around you, trust the people around you, and then just move really fast. And in a weird way, especially as someone, as kind of much of an overthinker as I am.
You're a scientist. You're supposed to overthink things.
Exactly.
We count on you. Some of us count on you to overthink things.
Oh my goodness. My goodness.
What I think is interesting, though, is that it's another woman talking to us about being a COO as a path to CEO. So we've seen some folks that are in the marketing role move into operations as like the path to get to CEO. So was it kind of like a foregone conclusion, or did you raise your hand and say, me? Did you have to go through a process, or was it really like natural choice? Julia, here's the crown. We're moving you over.
I think it's usually never a foregone conclusion to take over a CEO seat from a founder. I think that's always a very unique and obviously a very personal story for everyone involved. So, it certainly was not a foregone conclusion, and I didn't, join Clover ever with that next step in mind. But I do think that when it came to the time to think about, what really needs to happen in this company, and who has both the experience and the commitment to be able to do it, I think it was pretty clear that I was a good choice for that role. And I think a lot of companies, especially in this space, have to go through big restructurings or turnarounds, and there are obviously firms that do that. But I think at a company, especially a mission-driven company at our size, you really need to lean on someone who has a really detailed understanding of the business and the people, and care about the deeper mission. And that was me. And then I was very lucky to actually come into the seat, maintaining the entire exec team.
Wow.
You look, no offense, but you look pretty young. I just turned 49. I'm almost 50. How old are you?
I'm 36.
Yeah. So I can't quite be your mom unless I was a child bride. But
so CEO at 36. That's pretty flippin' unbelievable. Running a company, you have a great team, but running a company that is putting, I think of it as putting good into the world. You're putting good food and real things and mission driven. And then where's do you have a family? Tell us about that.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, I always say I have two families, and I actually have two babies. One is my 9-month-old baby at home, and
Aw.
the other one is Clover. So they both take a lot of attention. I have, obviously a super supportive team at work and a really supportive team at home. I have a wife who is an amazing partner, Catherine, and she has a very intense job as well. And I think it's really amazing how much like clear communication and generosity in the home space really helps you be able to like focus and do
Yeah.
it at work.
100%.
Without her.
Well,
So
that's-
is Catherine working F&B too? What does Catherine do?
No, she's actually a science writer. She works at Harvard Medical School.
Oh, yeah. I mean, no big deal.
I mean,
Cool. Me too. Mhm.
well, if I can just say, I would like a wife. I would also like a boyfriend.
I want a wife too.
And a husband to pay for it, but I would really like a wife, honestly, because that is what I feel like we have as women have to give. And I want that from someone else. So I get jealous of my lesbian friends. I'm like, I want a wife.
Oh my goodness. Well, all right. So you have a 9-month-old is not like the easiest thing in the whole world. They're cute. That's why you put up with crying, because they're so flippin' adorable. But all right, I'm going to ask like a personal question. Can I ask a personal question?
Always.
Did you or your wife conceive the baby? What's the baby's name?
Her name is Ella.
Ella. I wanted to stop
Oh.
calling her just baby. But Ella, or like, how was she brought into this world, this bundle of joy? And I know that's very personal.
No, I mean, it's personal, but it's the kind of thing that I think we should talk as much as people feel
Yes.
comfortable about in the world, especially actually, again, in the right context, in the workplace. I think it's important as a leader. I spoke actually quite a lot about this at work, in kind of casual conversations, because I think it's important for especially, CEOs and especially female and minority or queer CEOs to talk about their journey and to talk about, what is hard or unique about it. So yeah, I spent a lot of time talking about our fertility journey. In fact, I actually think that my exec team knew before any of our family members knew.
Oh my goodness.
Catherine was pregnant with Ella, because especially when you go through an IVF process like we did, you basically monitor every little moment.
It's a little
in
tough,
the
yeah.
process. Yeah. So I would be I'd be in a meeting and then I'd get a phone call from the clinic. So I would have to step out and, I'm very transparent. So I came back in and I'd say like, oh, transfer didn't work this time, or, oh, it actually took, which is amazing.
Wait, so how many times did you have to try IVF? Because I know I have female friends who've said that they've had multiple rounds
Several
of it.
friends who've gone through this. Yeah.
I mean, each woman's journey, each person's journey is so unique. So, Catherine had to go through a couple rounds of egg retrievals. And the egg retrieval process is in many ways, more physically taxing.
Yeah. They pump you full of those hormones and then you got to go in there and get them.
Exactly.
Sounds terrible.
It's like it's like if you, are on your period and you tend to have, menstrual cramps on your period, it's like that times like 50, basically.
No thanks.
And, and that's actually because, I could talk a lot about the development process from a biologist standpoint.
From a science standpoint.
Can we just give out your email in case there's some ladies that want to call and ask you some questions about it?
Oh yeah.
To be honest, like, I think, Tammy, you just made a really great point, which is just women hearing this story, and I don't want to cry, but Julia, you might have women reach out to you and say, can you talk to me about your experience? Like, that's really powerful experience.
It is. And I have to say, even though obviously it's very important to be the like supporting partner in this, it really so much is like Catherine's experience about, what her body went through and what her body went through multiple times. Our first transfer didn't work. So we ended up doing 3 transfers. First transfer didn't work. Second transfer actually, and this is specifically transferring an embryo that, was grown up using Catherine's eggs, in the clinic. That second embryo actually did implant, but it implanted in her fallopian tube.
Oh.
It's very dangerous. It's an ectopic.
Yeah, you can can burst.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, that had to be removed in an emergency surgery. And that was really hard. And it actually was at the very same time where I was considering whether or not taking the CEO role.
Oh, so no pressure. No pressure.
It was an intense moment for the family. Yeah.
Yeah, both
And
families.
exactly, exactly.
So what
And
is,
so
I'm
much of
sorry.
that is what her body, had to go through in this process.
So what is it like to be a queer CEO that is out? What are some of the struggles that you find, and in terms of either acceptance, or if you guys are trying to raise money and grow, are there, because I see what the guys on the other side of the table look like.
I think, well, one thing I feel very lucky with my current investor group and my
Mhm.
current board, in that, again, we're a mission driven company. So we
Mhm.
tend to attract folks who are really interested in obviously doing good in the world. And, a lot of people understand that it's better to engage with a diverse set of ideas and a diverse set of people in order to actually, manifest that good. So, a lot
Yes.
of the investors tend to be pretty supportive, and tend to be, pretty open to lots of different, kinds of people, which is good. That being said, it is hard because it is a unique experience, and most of the people I speak with are men. Obviously, most of them are men with more traditional kind of backgrounds in many ways. So it's not so much that there's any particular challenges that I
Okay.
run
Mhm.
into. It's more that there's not as much of a shared experience, as when I work with, obviously people who are also, in the queer community, or
Yeah.
are women leading, mid-sized companies or bigger, which is a very, it's a very specific kind of authority to wield.
Yeah, I'm going to introduce you to some restaurant friends. So we're going to get you some of your
Amazing.
peeps so you can meet
Julie,
some
I can't
people.
figure out why we've never met you before. That is like, it is
'Cause she
literally, you
cuz she
blow
was
me
making
away.
beer. We don't drink
I
beer.
It's fair point, but like I'm just so impressed by you. So not to go backwards to food for a hot second, but the thing we like to talk about and eat. You said something to me the other day about like food is like the only choice we like have to make all the time, right? Or it was something along those lines. And like I want you to talk a little bit about that, because to me it was like, oh, that's really interesting how you're thinking about that. Like we have to make this food choice, right?
Yeah, going obviously from a very academic setting to a retail setting is like a complete mind switch, right?
Mhm.
And retail, it's fast. You're like always thinking about what a customer is looking for. You're always thinking about, what is the path that a consumer good takes to get in front of a customer, and why someone's choosing to do one thing and not another. And of all the retail spaces, including beer, obviously, or
Mhm.
beverage, of all the retail spaces where a consumer makes choices in life, food is like, ooh, is blows all other categories out of the water in terms of the number of choices a customer makes over their lifetime, and even in a single day. Think about all of the choices you've made, up to today, about like the food that you're eating, and whether or not you even made a choice this
I mean, I
morning.
had
Maybe.
fish sticks for breakfast. So like, I mean,
There
I
we
made
go.
it, there was a choice made. It might not have been the best choice, but it was a choice.
I just was
There we
thinking, I'm
go.
like, I think about food all day long. I'm making what choices of what I am not going to eat today.
Exactly. And it's hard to predict. And even as an individual, you can surprise yourself about what
Mhm.
you're going to do at your next meal. And I think as a business trying to provide a service, and especially trying to provide a service and a good that is unique and is innovative and maybe new for someone, it's it's really cool because, one, it's very hard to predict what consumers will do, but two, you also get many, many, many tries with a
Yes.
consumer with food because they're making
Mhm.
so many decisions over and over. So it's a fun space to be.
Yeah, I like to joke that we have 21 opportunities to sell to the customer every week. And
Yes.
so we don't have to be as competitive with each other. It's not like buying a car where I'm going to do that maybe every 5 years, or if you're
Yeah.
me, every 2 years. But you've got three chances every day to try to get somebody to come into your restaurant.
It's true. It's true.
So, on that vein, like, what do you guys do in terms of like your best marketing tactics? So, it sounds like you have a niche audience.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're closer to like universities, or maybe even like the medical community.
Mhm.
But so there's some, location strategy in there. But we've been talking a lot about marketing recently and just how fragmented it's become. So how do you get customers? How do you tell customers about Clover?
Yeah. So we actually have a very high LTV, a very high lifetime value for our customers. And a lot of that is because, obviously we service very specific communities, but we also make food that once you try it, it is very hard to forget about it. So we actually tend to reach the same customer group, very deeply, very frequently, a lot. We have a super robust, email marketing program. We also have a proprietary app. So we all own all of our own tech, including our POS and an app. And actually, the majority of orders coming into each of our restaurants is through.
Wait, so you built your POS?
Yeah, let's talk about this.
We
It
did.
is called
We
Byte.
Who built it?
A very small in-house tech team over, the last like 15 years, basically, has built
That's
up different
impressive.
features.
And how is that going to impact you as you scale? So are you doing like an iPad interface for this POS? So it's more like an e-commerce type of solution?
Yeah, so we actually already have that, which is
Okay.
very cool. So basically the customer experience really exists on our Clover app. It's called Clover. It's in, the App Store, through Apple. You can get it on any Android. You also can use it in a web browser. And when you go and sign up for our app, then you have access to basically all of these products that we sell. You can order any food at any time for any of our restaurants. You can order ahead. It'll be ready for you when you walk in the door. You also can order our subscription meal box service. So it pops up on a little screen. You can see what all of the menus are going to be, and you can select, yes, I want to be a part of your Taco Tuesday program.
Do you mail the subscriptions outside of Boston?
We do.
Stop it.
For
Anywhere?
special guests.
Milwaukee, maybe?
I want it. Like, that sounds great. I mean, I literally am starving now after listening to this. Apparently the fish sticks didn't do it for me. So it sounds amazing. Okay, keep going. I got sidetracked thinking about myself.
Well, I mean, that's what's so cool is that when you get into our app, you actually can explore all the different kinds of food that we're not only serving that day, but that we will be serving in the future. We have in the past. We have, over 2,000 in-house like proprietary recipes that all use these like hyper seasonal fresh vegetables and other ingredients that are sourced like literally all from New England.
Who's creating these?
Yeah, I'm super curious about this tech play
Did
here.
you hire like culinary scientists too?
Yes, actually, we did.
I didn't even know that was a thing, but now we
Because
do.
they're probably not getting their product from one of the big distributors. So
Yeah,
it makes
clearly.
sense they have to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have a really stellar head of food that's been with the company since almost the very beginning. His name's Chris Anderson. He runs our commissary. He has run over the years a very, very creative, quite brilliant culinary team that's come up with a ton of different iterations, mainly on like familiar foods. They're all like burgers or sandwiches or pizza. So, this is all stuff that people know how to eat. But they encounter flavors and flavor combinations that they've never really encountered when they eat with us.
Is it like fast casual or fast food, or is it more of a sit down type of concept? And
No, it's definitely a fast casual leaning into fast food space. The idea is that it's convenient, it's affordable. Our prices are right in the middle of like the fast food market, kind of the down market a little bit from fast casual, which is a very specific place we want to play.
And like, if you need any help with pricing, I'm your girl.
Oh my goodness. So I think we need to do some food for thought questions.
Oh, yes.
Do you want to go first, Tammy?
Well, I always like to ask, what's your favorite restaurant or food that is not your own? Like, you can't pick one of yours, but so give someone else a shout out. It's an opportunity for an independent or a chain or both. You decide.
Amazing. It's funny. I actually, when we had our daughter Ella, we moved a little bit outside the city. We were living in Somerville, which is a very cool part of like the Boston area. We moved a little bit outside of the city, and I went through an existential crisis moving into a suburb.
Oh,
But we realized that it has this really strong culinary cafe culture in this suburb, and there's a place right in Belmont Center called Butternut that it's one of two locations that's a really amazing cafe, and it's an example of a space where not only are the baked goods and the sandwiches and all this stuff, locally sourced and done really, really well. But it has a very egalitarian like work culture, and that's something that's really important to me, and it's really important to Clover, and it's really nice to see organically so many other local operators prioritize that.
That's so impressive. All right. So what do you do outside of work when you're not obviously with Ella and Catherine or with Clover? What are you doing for fun here?
It's a lot of walking around with Catherine and Ella and meeting up with friends. I think we do a lot of like friends and community events. I'm a big reader. I love reading. It's like my route into science was actually through reading about science first. Even reading textbooks. So I'm a big reader, and I really enjoy, especially now, reading about kind of different models for how the world can work and different kind of economic
That's so cool.
and government models. Yeah.
I've never once heard anyone say, "Man, I love to read a textbook." Really exciting.
A well-written textbook.
A follow-up question. You mentioned that maybe you have partaken in dance, and I got really excited the other day. So
She has been fangirling over you,
I have
Julia.
been. I've told
She
like
has been-
everybody about you that I've spoken to. I feel like I'm now your PR team because I'm like,
Yeah,
you need
don't
to meet
need
her.
that guy that was in the audience. You've got Aaron now.
Oh my gosh, this is so funny. No, he's wonderful too. I met him as well. But tell us more about your dance journey.
Well, to be fair, I only brought up dance because you brought up dance.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
No, I was very, very, very briefly in the beginning of college. I went to UC Berkeley for my undergrad. They had a competitive ballroom dance team that was really generous in taking me on, even though I had no formal dance training, and teaching me a bunch of stuff. And I was fabulously mediocre, and then I stopped after a year.
Oh my goodness.
But I loved
think
it
that's
so much. So much fun.
Did you wear the twirly dresses that I see Aaron and her girls wearing that like fan out and so dramatic?
I actually have, people in my life now cannot believe, and they always ask for like video evidence, but they can't believe that I did. I wore some pretty outrageous.
If you want to send us some photos, we'll happily post them for you.
Yes, that's amazing. I love that.
Okay, let's see.
I do want to see a picture of the baby at some point, just because, like, I love babies.
We gotta protect the children, though. What if they start following her around? And
Oh yeah, fair point.
everyone wants pictures, like paparazzi.
Do you think we have a lot of stalkers that watch the show? What are you talking about?
mean,
We don't
I
have to
don't
share the
know.
picture. She could just share it with us.
Just me. We don't have to do it
Jeez,
right here
Tammy.
on air.
Yeah. Goodness. All right. So
I was going to ask next. What's your favorite band or music?
Oh my God. Well, now we are already entering into like the kids' music era. So we're listening to a lot of like They Might Be Giants, which actually
I like
is
They Might Be
fantastic.
Giants.
It's a fantastic band. They have a wonderful science series. Which is
I'm
great.
seeing a trend here.
It's true. It's true. No, that's a really good question. I actually listen to a lot of classical music. I find classical music really, it's really expansive and expressive, and it actually helps when I'm thinking, when I kind of want to think about work, but get rid of all the details and really think about like the future, kind of decades into the future. I find a lot of the kind of
Taylor Swift isn't doing it for you when you want to think.
I mean, she's truly epic.
She really is.
I will
love
say
me
that
some Tay
I don't
Tay.
know if I've ever met anyone more polar my opposite. However, I love everything about this. So our last question for you, we ask everyone that comes on the show, is if you could listen to another inspiring woman or women that you think should come on the show, who would you nominate?
I mean, there's many. This is a little self-serving, just because I enjoy conversations with her so much. There's a local operator. Her name is Irene Lee. She runs May Dumplings, which is a Boston-based
Sold.
dumpling company. Really good. And we're actually very fortunate. We're starting to work with Irene on basically like an employee training, development, and equity program.
Oh, cool.
Thank you for continuing to do those.
They're very important.
They are
super
very important.
And she's very experienced in the area. She runs a group called Prep Shift that actually is very good at securing funding for it. So it's not a huge burden on smaller businesses. And, we're really excited to kind of bring her in, share ideas and all that stuff. And she has a ton of great ideas about the industry. So I'm sure that she would be wonderful as a conversationalist.
That's so amazing. Well, we loved having you. I can't tell you how much I've fangirled over you and told everyone you're just absolutely wonderful. And like I said, I'm shocked that Tammy and I had not met you before this, but thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. If anyone's listening and hasn't shared, followed, clicked, smoke signal, whatever you have to do to follow us, 5-star, rate, how all the apps and YouTube work, leave a comment if you'd like. We'd love that. So thank you for joining us on Bite-Sized and Bossy.
Bite-Sized and Bossy, rising up the ranks, handing out encouragement, deposits in their banks. Inspiration coming at you like a river flowing. Women paving paths, look at them going.